My M32 wife's F30 friend cheated on her fiancé at her bachelorette party. My wife doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Help, I was shocked. To me, this was a big deal. The wedding is in a few weeks. Story 1. A few weeks ago my wife went away to Miami for one of her best friend's bachelorette party. After she got back I overheard a conversation between my wife and another one of her friends that was also at the bachelorette party. Long story short, the bride-to-be cheated on her fiancé while she was there. She met a guy at a club, took him back to her hotel room and they had sex. I was shocked. To me this was a big deal. The wedding is in a few weeks. But my wife didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said she shouldn't have done it but it was just sex with a guy she'd never see again. Just one last fling before her friend settled down, nothing to call off a wedding for. I could not believe what I was hearing and my thoughts immediately turned to my wife's own bachelorette party. She went to Vegas for the weekend with the same group. If she didn't think it was a big deal, did she hook up with someone while she was there? She swore on the life of our daughter that she didn't. She admitted to dancing and flirting but nothing more. This led to a larger conversation on her thoughts on emotionless sex. Another shocker was that she admitted that if I was the type of guy that would be okay with her sleeping with other guys, that she would probably do it. She knows I wouldn't be okay with it so she has never brought it up. She again said that sex isn't love and that she has always been able to sleep with men and not get attached. Her friend thinks the same way. Now, I'm not thinking about divorce but I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. What does everyone think? Edit. I wanted to add one more thing that gives a little more insight into her thinking. She mentioned that if I had an affair that was purely physical, she would be able to forgive me. But if it was emotional then it would be over. I'm the complete opposite. If my wife had an emotional affair I'd see this as something I could fix. I don't know if that is just a guy thing or not. Update. I wanted to provide an update on my post from a few days ago. TLDR. My wife's friend cheated on her fiancé during her bachelorette and my wife didn't think it was that big of a deal. Anyway, many of you told me tell the fiancé. I debated it but another one of my wife's friends, call her Claire, who was also at the bachelorette weekend beat me to it. The whole scene was quite dramatic from what I heard. My wife and Claire were over the house of the friend who cheated, call her Wendy. When the fiancé came into the room Claire said to Wendy that she needs to tell him now or she will. The fiancé pretty much knew what she meant and basically broke down. There was a lot of screaming and crying. The fiancé took it really hard and as of now the wedding is off. My wife looked shaken when she came home. She ended up apologizing for making light of the situation given how much pain it caused the fiancé. I told her no shit and she admitted that her views on this were obviously much different than most people. She gave me a hug and said she would never be able to live with herself if she hurt me like that. As for what happened on her bachelorette, Claire was present for my wife's bachelorette as well. Claire and I have also been friends for years. I met my wife through her actually. So it stands to reason that she would have definitely told me if my wife slept with another guy during her bachelorette. So I suppose I'm satisfied for now. Story 2. I found my BIL's Reddit account and I'm genuinely terrified for my family. First and foremost, I will not be sharing BIL's username. I know this will cause most people to call this post fake but his account has a lot of private information about many members of my family, including what are essentially docs bins and other private info. He does not know I know about this account and I don't want anyone to go to his account to leave comments or message him. I'm F21. My sister, Jane F28, has been with John, M27, for 2 years. I found his account totally randomly. I googled his name as he's a journalist and found a Reddit account with the same name. Think John Doe is dead 1997. I clicked on it and found tons of Reddit posts ranting about his girlfriend's family, mainly her little sister. At first, I thought I just came across a random, disturbed individual, but clicking on the posts revealed more. Both my sister and I have unique names. Not super rare, but uncommon enough that they're noticeable in a list of names and neither of us have met anyone with the same names as us. Plus, our surnames aren't super basic either. Think Aurora Fernsby. Fake, but similar name to myself. He also mentions enough personal details for it to be undeniably him. I wouldn't be writing this unless I was 99% sure. The posts are all either posted to vent/rant subs or straight to his Reddit page. They all have 0 to 3 upvotes and a few comments spread across, from what I can tell to be, 100 posts. They're all mostly complaining about Jane, me, or our mother. The most concerning post is about me though. I have a varied past with men, mainly influenced by SA. I'm in therapy, but it has made me more weary around men I don't know. This, apparently, enrages John. In this post, He details out how he plans to offer to drive me home next I visit them, but instead of taking me home, he'll detour and take the scenic route through the country lanes in our town. He says he wants to make me afraid enough that I'll do something to her. But after 15 or so minutes, he'll turn around and drive me home. Therefore showing me that not all men are creeps and want to hurt her. His logic seems to be that since he acted weird but didn't hurt me, it should click in her brain that not all men are bad. The post is very long, like scrolling down for 15 seconds long, but he rants about how it's unfair that I flinch around him when he makes big gestures or yells at the TV, because he'd never do anything. He says he can fix me more than my therapist. A lot of the post is weird incel-y talking points. I was bawling reading the whole thing. There is one comment telling him to get help, but John just responds, "I don't need help, she does." His comment history is also concerning. A lot of weird incel talking points, which doesn't make sense as he has a girlfriend. I'm not super versed in incel ideology. A lot of stuff about SA, women's roles in relationships, society, other races, ethnicities, religions, etc. I'm terrified of John. We weren't close before, but we didn't hate each other. To me, he was just a grown man with vastly different interests and we would never mesh cleanly. Now, I don't know what to think. My mind is frazzled. I'm going to tell my sister but I don't know how. I have screenshots of everything, links, etc. I just don't know how to lay it all out. Also, I need coping mechanisms. I'm in a constant state of pre-panic attack. I can feel it in my chest, but it's not tipping over into a full panic attack which is making me genuinely crazy. Sorry for the long post, thanks in advance. Edit. As of 2 hours ago, I made my mom and uncle aware of what I found. Every screenshot, screen recording and link. My sister is currently on a work trip so we're waiting for her to come back in 2 days. His account is still up as of 20 minutes ago. Thanks for all your advice. Mom, uncle and I are figuring out the best way to tell my sister. Update. As I mentioned in my last post, I had made my mom and uncle aware of the situation. We all agreed that waiting for Jane to come home from a work trip to tell her was the best course of action. When she got back, we sat her down to explain everything. I showed her the screenshots, the posts, and walked her through everything John had said. She was quiet at first, just reading through the messages with this shocked look on her face. She started accusing me of overreacting or somehow getting the situation wrong. She said that maybe John was just venting and didn't actually mean any of it. She also suggested that I might be reading too much into his posts because of my past trauma. My mom and uncle tried to step in and back me up, but Jane wasn't having it. She kept saying that we were blowing things out of proportion and that we didn't understand John like she does. At this point, she was getting really upset and we were all talking over each other. Then Jane said that I've always been distant from John and that maybe he felt uncomfortable around me because of how I act. At that point, I was done. I made it clear that if she decided to stay with him, I would have to limit my contact with both of them. My mom and uncle backed me up on this, and we all said that we couldn't trust John to be part of our lives anymore after seeing what he wrote. Jane stormed out of the house after that. She's barely spoken to me since except for a couple of cold texts saying she needs to process the situation. On Monday, it's Wednesday today, Jane showed up at my door, completely unannounced. She looked like she hadn't slept, and the first thing she did was apologize. I was shocked because I wasn't expecting her to come around so quickly. She told me that after she left, she couldn't stop thinking about the posts, and she started going back over everything in her head. She said she told John about the situation and when I went to check, all his stuff has been deleted. This annoyed me and my mom, who was on the phone, as we told Jane to keep quiet for safety reasons. Luckily I have all the evidence saved. She said that John had blocked me on everything to preserve his career and that he was super pissed off with me for stalking him. He even told my sister that the account wasn't him, rather someone at work who hates him. I obviously don't know everything that happened between them, but it's caused a rift between them. I've moved in with my uncle for the time being as I was afraid of John showing up on these first few nights. We looked into legal options about the posts but found nothing that would help us. My uncle said he's going to help me get in contact with his work, but I'm scared of John's reaction if I did that. As of current, my sister isn't totally settled on leaving John, so I've gone LC with her. She said her reasons for staying with John is because she just can't see John acting like this. Luckily I have friends and family who are on my side. Sorry this update is kind of bleak. Story 3. My best friend is dating my abuser and wants me to reconcile with him, so I kicked her out of my home. I've tried to write this out for days now, but I keep getting too upset to concentrate, so this might be a bit jumpy. I don't have family in the sense many understand family to be. So I've been pretty much a loner with one exception, my best friend Tammy. We met in middle school and just became joined at the hip. Things changed a bit in college. My parents forced me into a Christian out-of-state college. Tammy applied and got accepted to the other college in the town, so we both went out there and were roommates for 2 of the years before I met my first ever boyfriend. I will call him Trent. I moved in with him the end of junior year, and I don't know when it started happening, but he went from charming and affectionate to controlling. I don't wish to upset anyone, so I will hit the pause button and warn you that below is some of the things he did for me to label him abusive. He would put me down and hint he could find someone better, or that if he cheats, it will be my fault since I wasn't this or that enough. It started to get physical senior year. At first it was him pushing me out of the way if he was walking by and I was in the path for whatever reason, then he would slap me in arguments calling me worthless, a waste of his time and young years, a broken toy no one will love. I didn't have any real self-esteem, so I stayed, thinking I was the problem, and when I called home about it, I was told that the problem was me. I started to make my exit plan the day after I graduated. He had proposed, and I hesitated, and he screamed at me to ask why. Then he swung and punched the wall right next to my head. I fell to the floor in fear, and he tried to comfort me and basically forced me into sex. When I woke up the next morning, the ring was on my finger, and he forced me again and later called it make-up sex, saying he forgave me for the way I treated him. That is the extremely short explanation, but there are so many stories of him forcing me into bed, hitting me or threatening to kill me, and more. So, I started to make a plan. I found a shelter in the city nearby. I started hiding things in the trunk of my car. I was in the service industry then, and so I would take more shifts whenever I could and hide my cash tips in a box of tampons in my purse. And I finally was ready and left him, left my phone, I had a new cheap one, and never went back. Tammy knew him and lived near us, but she didn't know about my plan. She messaged me on social media and I told her what happened. All of what happened. So she played dumb when he came around asking where I was, spinning the story that I was suicidal and he is calling the police to find me. He never found me. That was years ago. I am now 36, and Tammy is too. Trent is 38. Tammy became a bit religious, but I told her as long as she is happy and safe, I don't care what she leans on in faith. She started to invite me out to her church 4 years ago, and I kept saying no until I very firmly said if she brought it up again, I would just walk out or hang up. I'm not against anyone believing what they want, I just don't want or need to be sucked into it. I honestly do not mean any offense to anyone of any faith. I myself am just agnostic, and if that ever will change, I will decide on my own, but I doubt it will. She got a job 2 years ago overseas. I acted excited for her and I was, but I was also deeply devastated. Without her, I had no one else. By this time, I wasn't in contact much with family, and I do have surface level friends, but no one that's known me in the real sense. I worked it out with my counselor and just carried on. We stayed in touch online and video chatted a lot. She would show me London, and I would show her my transition to moving to Texas. We would chronicle our explorations of our new cities, and then one day it started to slow down on her end right around the time she went to visit a friend in our old college town. She then asked if she flew to Texas sometime this summer, could she stay with me a few days, and I excitedly agreed. So early this month, just a few weeks ago, she came here. She was off the whole first day, but I figured she was tired. Then the next day, we went out and got drunk. She started to cry and I got us an Uber back to my place and asked her what was wrong. That's when she asked me not to hate her and told me everything. She's with Trent. She's been with him almost a year. I was too stunned to even say anything, and she went on and on about how it's not what I think and he has changed. She told me he found Jesus and turned his life around and deeply regrets the way he treated me. The more she talked, the more I just shut off. I didn't even have it in me to feel anger. I just stared at her frozen as she talked until she said, "Please just say something." So I did. I told her to get the fuck out. She started to explain it all again. She hated him forever, but they kept running into each other. He goes to church and showed he has changed, blah-de-blah-de-blah. I didn't interrupt her, but when she stopped talking again, I just repeated myself. She argued more, and I would just listen and repeat until she grabbed her stuff and left. It was silent between us for a week until my dad texted me that Tammy called my parents crying and told me to get over myself. After all, it's not like I wanted to get back with him, right? And that's what I get for living with a man I wasn't married to. Then she texted the next week rehashing her argument and pretty much demanding I video chat with him to see for myself that he's changed and forgive him. She then blamed me that they can't take the next steps in their relationship because I don't have a forgiving heart and that I was malicious when I kicked her out. I've spent all of this week trying to figure out if I am insane to think this is a huge betrayal. A deal breaker. I mean, who even dates their friend's ex, for one, but this? I blocked her after she hinted that my version of things was exaggerated and malicious, but I don't have other friends to turn to about this. I don't think I am, but and her family thinks I am at least for kicking her out in a strange city alone when she was just being honest with me. Am I? Update. Sorry to everyone who reached out and I haven't responded. I honestly haven't been using the app as I had to change phones swiftly at one point and forgot the password when trying to log on my new device. It took Trent 2 weeks. I had a full-time job but also a part-time service industry job as a bartender. He showed up at the bar. It's a small bar and one of the regulars, Daisy F30s, is one of the folk I did confide in about Trent and Tammy. When Trent walked in, I happened to be chatting with Daisy and she saw my reaction. She asked what was wrong and I told her that it was Trent. She wasted no time and went to get my manager. Trent sat at the end of the bar and I took my time checking in on my other bar guests until my manager Heather F50s came out with the other 2 bartenders, both M30s. Trent had already begun knocking on the bar asking for service loudly and I had been ignoring him. He got kicked out quickly and told that we can and do refuse service to him. I got texts from a new number saying it was Tammy and begging for me to answer. She called 4 times and I didn't answer. She left voicemails with Trent and one without all telling me that I was concerning them with my hatefulness, how I am alone in the world and that's not safe, who would I turn to if someone broke into my home at night. Things of that nature and religious crap sprinkled in. I was still on the clock and Daisy suggested I stay at her parents'. I know her mom who sometimes comes with her to the bar. At that point I was shaken enough to take them up on it. Daisy's mom, Rose F60s, has been sweet enough to let me stay rent-free for as long as I needed, but I eventually moved in with one of the servers at the bar. She helped me look for legal representation and I filed for a restraining order using screenshots I had emailed myself prior, old voicemails, and though we could not prove harassment on Tammy's end, Trent had said enough in the voicemails and messages he had sent that it qualified for a temporary restraining order. I am safe for now and the hearing is in January. No one knows where I live currently and I've shut down all social media. I've been NC with my family as they've been pushing me to give my address so they can send Christmas gifts, but when I gave them a P.O. box Daisy is allowing me to use, they got angry it wasn't an address and that was suspicious enough for me not to trust them. It's strange but I am slowly making friendships. And seeing a counselor helps with the stress. Trent is pretty much blacklisted from the square of bars where my bar is, word gets around. I've not walked alone a single shift since. And that's my update. Not perfect, but I remembered my password when I was checking my email for any additional stuff to send to my lawyer and wanted to let every person concerned about me that I am okay. When this is resolved I will try to update with more detail. Story 4. I feel like my husband, M26, puts things off until I, F26, end up handling things myself. Alt account because my husband is on Reddit. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we've been married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. I feel like we've tried a lot of different things to improve our relationship, but I often find myself feeling defeated and sad, because it seems like nothing will ever change. Right now we're in the process of moving. I stayed behind to finish things up at our house and he's gone ahead to start working. We're literally starting from scratch. I sold everything, including our cars. We have to have a car, so I asked him to buy a car and have it ready for us once I'm ready to move. He's met me with so many excuses and I'm just tired. I'm finally flying to meet him next week, and there's still no car. It's been a month. He mentioned to me offhand the other day that he was planning on buying a car once I fly in. But doesn't that defeat the purpose? All I asked was that he had one ready for when I arrived. I really don't want to go car shopping the second I get off the plane. I was excited and hopeful about the move. We talked about how things were going to change and he seemed so motivated. But now I feel defeated again. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? I'm not sure what advice I'm looking for. We get along pretty well when there aren't any big life decisions involved. He's a nice guy, I just don't trust him to take any responsibility in the relationship. I guess, has anyone been in a similar relationship? How did it go? When was it finally enough for you? Is there anything that can change? I'm really interested in starting couples therapy, but I'm afraid of putting effort into something that might not even work. Update. Hi Reddit. I made a post 3 years ago about my husband not taking the initiative when it came to purchasing a new car after a big move. My post didn't get too big, but I've always liked seeing updates and a lot has changed in 3 years. So, I decided to log back in and make my own. I don't know how to link the original, but please take a look at the post history if you want to see my first post. After making the post, my husband had made an appointment to go look at cars. I remember feeling really good about everything in that moment. I felt a huge relief knowing that this big thing was finally getting taken care of. When his appointment came, my husband called to tell me some good news. He had seen one car, decided it was good, and told me that this is the one we would be buying. While he was still in the dealership, I asked him to tell me the details like how much the interest was and how much the car cost. I asked him if he had compared it to Qley Blue Book to see if it was a fair deal. My husband was kind enough to ask the salesman everything, but after each question he would add, "I'm sorry my wife is making this so difficult." I was pretty hurt and embarrassed by this, and told him so, but he said all my questions were frustrating and were slowing down the process of the one thing I had asked him to do. In the end, he decided to wait for me to arrive so that we could sign for the car together. I ended up getting picked up from the airport and taken straight to the car dealership. We got a good interest rate on the car, but we ended up overpaying by about $7,000. I should have said no to the car and just looked myself, but I was young and embarrassed and I felt like I wasn't being supportive. Thankfully, that car ended up being our only shared piece of property in our divorce. I didn't trust him to refinance the car, so I ended up taking it. We owed so much more money on the car than what it was worth that I couldn't get it refinanced for several months. I ended up trading it in, and even though I'm still in the hole financially because of it, I am so much happier now. We did try therapy before ultimately divorcing. My ex-husband was quite the prodigy. He was cured, his words, not mine, after a week. He said that he had it all figured out and didn't see the point in continuing. He also told me that he was the only one who had ever put any effort into the relationship, and that it was 100% my fault that we were divorcing. He told me that no one would ever love him again if I left and that he might as well off himself because there's no point in going on. When that didn't work, he said that no one would ever love me again and that I was lucky that he has stayed around as long as he did. He then asked me if I would forge his signature on the divorce documents because I was basically forcing him to do it anyways. I did not. Anyway, I'm happy to report that he was successfully able to move on from the trauma I put him through. He's still around, but I've kept my distance because I can't be bothered, so I'm unsure of what he's up to. I was able to find someone after some time. My boyfriend is so kind. Sometimes I feel like it's too good to be true. Then again, I get Twitter-pated when he does simple things like taking out the trash, cooking, or maintaining a full-time job. So the bar is in hell. He's a great guy, and he does more than the bare minimum, I promise. Looking back, I knew that I wanted a divorce, I just wasn't ready to admit it. My ex-husband didn't love or respect me. I didn't put many details of the relationship in my first post, and I don't really feel the need to put it all out there now, but I know now that if someone truly loves you, they make sure you know. Thanks Reddit. You were right. Story 5. ATA for telling husband it was his choice to open our marriage and I am not closing it. I F40 married my husband M42 18 years back. We have one daughter F16 and M14. We met in college and felt in love. My husband lost his parents in accident and as FRND I consoled him and we became close. We are from same city and he lived around 10 kilometers from my house. So we just clicked. Our marriage has our own share of ups and downs but financially we are in good place. I own a house gifted by my parents and he inherited his parents' house after their passing away. I run my own bridal boutique and make good money. He is insurance head. We have bought multiple properties and build our future together and for our children. We also have created mutuals will, in case one parent has to pass away, his or her share of assets will go to our children only, irrespective of living parent marrying again or not. Last year my husband started distancing and I was worried. He started ignoring me, stopped getting physical, etc. In end he told me. He find me fat, ugly and he doesn't get a turn on. I was so busy in raising kids and my business that I stopped caring about it. He said he doesn't want to destroy the family but he wants to have sex outside marriage. He said he won't be hypocrite and I can do same. I cried and begged but he didn't listen. After weeks of crying and self-pity, I accepted this proposal. I also started working out and guys in gym started hitting on me. I have had my share of hookups and fun. But finally I am getting along with a man who is 35. He treats me on dates and sex is good. I also changed my dressing from traditional to more Western and sexy. And has lost weight. I have nice curves too. My husband luckily or sadly didn't have such luck. He is tall and all. But he overrated his chances. He got hookups here and there, but barely they repeated him. He thought he can woo girls with money, but girls today are independent and can't be wooed with money only. I was going on date when my kids were at my parents and he was pissed. He said not to go, I didn't care and went. Now he is saying he want to close this marriage and I just laughed at him. I told this is the arrangement he wanted and I am honoring it. I am enjoying the attention these hunks give me and it's not my fault women don't want him. He started calling me names and I called him a man whore. He is threatening divorce and I am fine with it because our laws favor women more. I pointed that to him. He started crying and begging to close the marriage again. But I am refusing. Edit, 35 meters is in divorce process and our country take years to have divorce if wife isn't consenting. We are taking it slow. But he is amazing man, Ada? Edit, our children have no idea and we are involved parents. Stop stressing about them. Also planning to get divorced when both are in college. Pies who think it's fake, you can believe what you want to. I don't have to prove anything here, I am here for judgment. Edit. I had to add people who are blaming me for staying fat. Despite both working. My evenings went teaching kids and taking care of household. He thought it's woman's job to do so. And was only fun at. Mornings I had to prepare breakfast for all. I had house help for cleaning and dishes. But I barely had time to work out. Now I have hired cook and kids who can take care of themselves. It gives me free time to work on myself. If he wanted a model, he could have reduced his tummy and his daily sports. And helped me as well. Thank you. Edit. Men in comment section victimizing my husband. Expected. Keep barking. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed our videos, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated with our latest ones. Have a great day.